Welcome back, everyone, on a Thursday night open line as we discuss school vouchers, the education savings account program here in Tennessee, with a proponent and opponent. Our guests tonight, Arif Panju from the Institute of Justice and Andy Spears, the publisher of the Tennessee Education Report. Gentlemen, I want to go right to the phones because we have a caller who's been holding, and that's Jay. Hi, Jay. Welcome.
Yes, hello. How you doing?
I'm fine. What's on your mind?
I was just making a comment saying that I have 2 kids in metro school now, and we barely have money to give books to each student to go home and learn as a family. They giving paper other than books. So if we don't have money for books, I don't think we have enough money to go with them with any school. Mm-hmm. And so I just think if we shorted already, I think the other schools or wherever the money going, they're going to be shorted also, because we got kids now that don't have books is coming home to. Mm-hmm. And not mention my kids in private or charter schools, and my daughter had to end up going to high school, which it ain't too many charter schools at high school.
Right.
That is limited to us. And now she's in metro, back in metro, and she's lost. I agree with the second man, what he's saying, when we can go here for this voucher, but when things turn and too many people don't have that voucher for high school or middle school, they get back in them classes, my baby is lost, and I don't know what to do.
Wow. All right, thank you for the call. We're going to listen in. Andy, Arif, I should say, what do you say to that? And you know, Andy mentioned a big shortfall in funding, and obviously everyone would agree, at least in Tennessee, that teachers are not paid at a level, a competitive level.
I mean, this is often framed in this way. I mean, every time there's a choice program, it's the identical rebuttal, and it's the money should go to us. If there's a performance issue in public schools, it's we just need more money. And if there's outcomes that lead parents to say, look, we have gotten our representatives to the Capitol to pass a school choice program, the same education establishment will invest thousands in lawsuits to kill the choice. And it's just a choice. It's just letting a parent pick. They could stay in their assigned school if they want or not. And where the caller lives, there are people who live there that can afford school choice. They just write a check and go elsewhere. And so, you know, it's incumbent upon the General Assembly, and they recognize this, to help parents just like that person who called. Because if she has options, the school will, one, do a better job in investing the resources it gets, and second, it will be able to deliver what the community needs. Because some members might like to do something a little bit different and not be forced in the zip code. There's myriad reasons. And there's plenty of studies that have looked at school choice programs. We've got 28 in the country, in 28 states, I think north of 60 programs in Washington, D.C. And study after study vindicates what you'd realize if you give parents a chance to make a choice about their child and make an additional, you know, an individualized decision about their child's education and empower them, they're going to make great decisions. And that's why, you know, the Constitution protects that right. And I just will end with this. My friend on the other side, you know, likes to select the Constitution. This quote is from Article 11, Section 12. That's the education clause. And he skipped the very first sentence, which says nothing about, you know, we can only do one option and nothing else. It says the state of Tennessee recognizes the inherent value of education and encourages its support. And in Article 1, Section 1, the Constitution vests that power to make those decisions in the General Assembly, but it's their power. And when programs benefit them, the institutions that are tasked with serving them shouldn't be going and trying to kill these programs because it's about educating children. And they should focus inward. And they are totally entitled to go to the General Assembly and ask for more money. They have the resources and the motivation to lobby every legislative session, something that individual parents do not have. And so when the General Assembly tries something like this, especially when it helps parents like your caller, or Natuba in Memphis, and thousands of other parents in Tennessee, this is something that should be celebrated. And that's why a majority of states have school choice programs, and they're vindicated in court after court in Supreme Courts across the country.
Well, Arif, what about the choice to just move to a better zip code with a better performing school?
Yeah, some people can afford to sell a house if they have one, but sometimes they can't even afford rent in an apartment where they're living. Mm-hmm. That's one issue. And another one is, again, the same thing. If the solution is, look, we don't trust you to make a choice with your child's education, even though we do invest and offer a system of free public schools, but you can pick one of our other schools on our menu. And this is something that you would hear a monopolist offer everyone else. If there was, one type of grocery store that you had to go to, and even if the food was really bad in the produce aisle and it was expiring, you have no other choice. Parents are empowered through the ESA program, and they're going to be vindicated in the Tennessee Supreme Court.
Andy, how do you respond to the choice argument here, and that government can be kind of monopolistic, as Arif has said?
Well, so a couple things. One, I think it's very fascinating, and Arif doesn't want to tell you this, but only one legislator in Memphis or Nashville voted for the ESA program. So this is a program that has been foisted on Nashville and Memphis by legislators in Perry County and Hawkins County and Hancock County, and placed outsiders who don't live in Nashville and Memphis have chosen to tell school districts to educate 70 to 90% children of color how they should run their schools. So basically, old white dudes are telling people of color they're making a bad choice. Those people of color elected Steve Dickerson. He's shaking his head no because he knows I'm telling the truth and he doesn't like it. The truth makes him uncomfortable. So listen, the reality is people in Memphis and Nashville elected lawmakers again and again who voted against these choice programs because in Nashville and Memphis, we have a variety of choices, options for kids. And the other thing is I would welcome Arif and his friends at Americans for Prosperity to come to Tennessee. They're not telling you, Betsy DeVos and these other Koch brothers, these outside funders, they're not Tennesseans, to come to Tennessee and get our legislators to spend $1.7 billion. But the bottom line is voters in Nashville and Memphis soundly reject voucher schemes year after year by choosing lawmakers who reject those schemes. And so when we're talking about choices, the voters here have made choices, and what Arif is comfortable with is some old white guys who don't live in Nashville or Memphis making the choice for the people of color who run Nashville and Memphis, and that is absolutely wrong.
Andy, what would you say?
Hold on.
Okay, go ahead, Arif. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Look, I can appreciate the point you're trying to make, but again, there are so many straw men that were introduced. I'm worried they're just going to burst into flames right now on air. I have to clear some of them up. I work at the Institute for Justice. We vindicate civil liberties across the country. I'm sure you'd agree with some of our work. You probably don't agree with this, but what's consistent about our mission is that we believe in individual rights. It's not scary, and you can throw Koch brothers this and other words, it's not effective. The bottom line here is that the General Assembly speaks, and sometimes it's convinced and persuaded by some group, like the public school lobby, and they have a lot of resources. And sometimes they're convinced by the lawmakers that end up there who get calls from parents saying, look, we got to try something different. And whether the state reps that are zoned that are in the same area in those seats at the General Assembly didn't want this, I think it's probably reflective of what's been going on there for a long time, because schools don't end up as just largely failing school systems overnight. It takes a long time, and it takes failed leadership, really, and not enough trust in people. And I think the ESA pilot program just recalibrates that. It's good all around, and it doesn't use any local dollars. When a child walks into school, some state money follows that child. And if the child goes elsewhere, whether they move to another state for some reason, that money follows the child back to the coffers of the General Assembly, right? So, with that, you have to give opportunity to parents, and the Constitution doesn't say you can only try and only fund one option.
Andy,
that's why school choice is prevailing.
I don't want to frame this as a left versus right or a white versus black issue, although I see it kind of being shaped that way. But what do you say to those General Assembly members who you're right, may not represent Shelby County or Davidson County, the more conservative members? We know the makeup of the General Assembly. We know where the minority Democrats are. mostly represent those urban areas. Well, what do you say to the General Assembly after years and years of failing schools in these districts, of just trying something new, that they just want to try something different? Because, I mean, the history shows that, you know, maybe throwing a lot of money at the issue won't work. I don't know. What do you say to that, Andy?
Yeah, so I would love to look back at the Tennessee history and see when we've ever thrown money at public schools. That has never happened. We have been 45th. I moved to Tennessee 20 years ago. I did my doctoral dissertation on school funding in Tennessee and compared it to Kentucky, and we're not doing well.
Yeah.
We're 45th. Our teachers earn 30% less than comparably educated people in similar professions. Teachers in Tennessee earn about $1,500 less than teachers in Kentucky, less than teachers in Alabama. The bipartisan and Republican majority Tasker Commission says we're $1.7 billion behind in school funding. So I would like, and maybe Arif would have a fair point, if we had made up that $1.7 billion, right, then people were making a mad dash. The one other thing I would say really quickly is not only have voters continuously elected lawmakers in Nashville and Memphis who oppose vouchers, but we actually have now a real test. Parents have been offered these ESA schemes, and out of 160,000 kids in 2 districts, less than 1,000 people are even interested. Okay. There's not a mad dash out of these districts. All right, people are okay with the choices they have.
With that, we're going to take another break. I appreciate your passion, both of you, and we've got callers calling in, so we want to hear from them. So just hang tight. We're going to take a quick break and come right back right after this. Stay with us.